All right, guys, kind of a game theory video, kind of just a commentary or a comment, right? I want to talk about the progression of games real quick and something that I actually like about Guilty Gear Strive. Oh my God, ASMR, don't suck me off right now, okay? Anyway, so something, I'm just going to say this. I'm always about the progression of games, right? Because if a game is not progressive, as someone who doesn't really, I know people get mad, doesn't really play a lot of video games anymore. I only play video games randomly. If the game's not progressive, then I can just spend my time playing an old game, right? So when I talk about things that I like, and there's a danger of progression, and I want to talk about an example might be what is something cool that is in Strive? Something that is legitimately cool. Because the wall is not cool right now. The wall has not been cool. I was over the wall however many times I saw it. I was like, okay, what's the mind game to this? How is this progressing in a game? I'm over the wall. It's not cool. But an example of something that's progressive that is interesting to me is, say, Kai now has that electrical shock effect, whatever, right, dude? Like, his moves, once you block a fireball, whatever it is, or you block his little big, he clubs you over the head with his sword. You know what I mean? Your guy becomes electrified, and then some of the moves will start doing more stun. That is a progressive take on a character that no one else has or needs to have. Needs to have, right? My English is bad, right? No one else has to have that. No one else needs to have that. That is a progressive take on the idea of Kai, and you can visualize giving that to Kai in a different game, hopefully a better game, or if Strive becomes better, right? So that's fun. You know what I mean? Because no other character needs to have an electrified shock effect on them, dude. So it's actually a progressive take on the character, right? You could add that to a different Kai, right? And it'd be cool, right? That's why I even said, say an example might be, I'm not a big fan of XR because XR was so many one step forward, one step back, or one step forward, two steps back even, right? But let's use an example. Why did I think Chip was cool in that game? Because of Chip's wall, he could go off the wall, you know what I mean? Throw off the wall, leaf throw, all this kind of stuff. And that's something, you want to know what? No one else has to have that. That is a progressive take on a character that only Chip ever needs to have. We don't need any other character jumping off the wall whatsoever. That's a progressive take on the character of Chip, right? And I'm giving some more examples, but I'm again talk about when I've talked about the dangers of progression here in a second. But why did I accept a character like Johnny in XR'd? Even though I think Johnny, they probably could have just made an EX Johnny. And I've said this before, they could probably go the King of Fighter route, honestly, for some of these characters. King of Fighters used to be pretty easy going with EX versions of characters. But Johnny, even though Johnny was different in XR'd, Johnny was doing stuff that only Johnny does. And that's why he was awesome, right? He was still Johnny and he was progressive. And when we look at, like I said, there's a danger of progression in video games, right? Combos are a necessary evil of video games, fighting games, if you will, but inevitably combos start to get bigger, right? But when I've talked about the dangers of progressions, once you start giving characters too many tools, the characters can start to have shades of these other characters from the past, or other characters even in the roster, right? Why I said that Guilty Gear started to become uninteresting to me is because it became too much of I knock you down into my bullshit and then you got to block it. And it started getting boring because I'm like, oh, this is just what every new character does, right? Oh, what does Raven do? Oh, he knocks you down into a fireball and you got to block it. Oh, okay. What what's the person? What does Korean girl in an old man body do? Oh, he has this fireball and he knocks you down. It's like, oh God. Every character just feels like, how are they progressing Guilty Gear? Excuse me. They're progressing characters in the same way. And it's not interesting. It starts to feel like every character has the same shade of color. They start to become, the lines blur of what is different between these characters. What is different between what these characters trying to accomplish, right? Every character is just, their whole mind game is just knock you down into my big fireball or whatever my bullshit is. I fill up the screen and you got to block it. The characters aren't progressive anymore. So that's why when I talk about interesting things, I'm going to give another example too, but that's why when I talk about interesting things about Strive, say the Kai electric effect is actually legitimately interesting to me. I hope Strive is a better game, but I don't give a fuck about Strive as it is, you know what I mean, for the time being. Who knows if I'll even be around to play it. But the Kai electrified effect is something new to the character, a progressive idea to the character that no other character needs to ever have. I mean, I guess they probably could. Who knows? Maybe Soul catches you on fire and you're out. You know, who knows? I don't know. But you know what the point is? He doesn't. No one else needs to have it. It makes Kai feel special. Why did Chip actually feel progressive in XR? Because he has something that no other character, no other gimmick that any other character has to have, right? An example might be, say, Street Fighter, right? And I've talked about how I would change Street Fighter. You could go watch those videos, right? Because it is potentially, and that's why it's important to have archetypes in a game, period, because when you have these strong archetypes and characters, it helps you distinguish the characters, helps them make them feel more unique. You know what I mean? So there is a potential, it can potentially be hard to progress Street Fighter, but again, watch the videos how I would try to do it. But an example might be, hey, I like Guy, right? Guy's a character I definitely enjoy playing, right? Guy's awesome, right? So what happened? Guy was not, and Guy's only Guy. Guy is Guy. You look at Guy, and I've talked about when they were making a lot of characters in Street Fighter Alpha, even though I'm not a super big fan of all the Street Fighter Alpha series, right? And you can watch those videos about why, you know, Alpha 2 is one of the most hypocritical games ever made as well. But for what it's worth, design-wise, a lot of the Final Fight characters are amazingly designed, right? They're all different, and they're all bringing something new to Street Fighter, right? But let's use a character like Guy, for example, right? What happened? He wasn't in CVS 2, right? And so we had Maki instead, right? It's cool. She's a hot girl, whatever. You know what I mean? She's kind of different. You know what I mean? She's adding something a little bit different, I guess. I'm like, okay, I kind of wanted Guy, but Maki's hot. I guess I could see if I was desperate to play as Guy in that game, I might fiddle with her. You know what I mean? But then you could take a game like Street Fighter 5 and it's like, fuck, now you put Zeku in? And it's like, okay, I gave you a pass with Maki, but you know what? I really just want to play Guy. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to, like, Street Fighter 5, you know, they start adding so many characters, like, what does this character do? And it's like, oh, isn't that character doing something that a character that I liked before could do? Yeah, he's doing that, but he's also doing this other mix of this other character you liked. And it's like, oh, so he's not really, he's just an excuse to put in a quotation marks new character when I kind of just want to play my old character. It's like, I gave you a pass, you know what I mean, with Maki, but now I just want to play Guy, okay? You don't need to keep putting, you know, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why these games are not progressive. Because too many times they're adding in new characters that are really just a mix mash of this character with a mix mash of this character, maybe one smidge thing new, but it's like, dude, this isn't, I just want to play my character now, right? So that's when I talk about the progression of games. I understand that it's hard to progress games, but when you just make characters doing the same thing that everyone else does, it's not fun, it's boring. You know what I mean? I want real unique things that make me think and make me change my perspective on what a fighting game can be. And right now, Strive doesn't really have a lot of that, right? You know, the wall is bullshit. The wall could be new, but the wall is just stupid as it is. But there are certain things that I do appreciate. So, I mean, I do think the electric effect of Kai's, what did they call it? I forget what they call what the Japanese word they use, or Juden. What did they call for when you were electrified? I forget. I know they were saying biri during the stream, but I forget the exact name of the effect they were talking about. But charge effect, whatever the fuck it was. But anyway, I appreciate those kind of things in games because that's, again, something else that no one else needs to have. But this other bullshit, I'm not impressed. The end.